Okay, I'd like to call the special called meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, August 27th, 2012 to order. Will the city clerk please call roll and make general announcements?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'll be happy to call roll for the August 27th, 2012 special called meeting. I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Additionally, those attending the meeting who would like to provide a public comment either during the public hearing or during the call for comment, you're required to complete a comment card prior to speaking on the item. There is no public comment for consent agenda or first presentation. Those called to speak will be taken in the order that the city clerk received the public comment card. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization. The City Council may allow public comment on either an agenda item or general public comment from a representative of such an organized group, provided, however, that such an individual shall file a notarized affidavit that they have the authority to speak on behalf of said organization. Demonstration of any sort within this chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from applause, cheering, booing, outbursts, or dialogue with any person speaking. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will expect to receive yourself. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Here.
Councilmember Karen Thurman is absent. Councilmember Matt Kuntz.
Here.
Councilmember Bill Lusk.
Here.
Councilmember Bert Hewitt.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Longoria is absent. Councilmember Lance Large is absent. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming back here today, and our staff. And thank you for being here. City Clerk would call the first item to the agenda.
Our first item is approval of the meeting agenda. This is agenda item number 12207.
Does the council or staff have any other items? Okay.
Mayor, I move to approve the meeting agenda as prepared by staff. Second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Councilmember Lust, second by Councilmember Kuntz for approval of the meeting agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, sir, we do have one card.
Okay, let me read the public comment rules. Next item is public comment. Public comment is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and city council and to provide input and opinions on any matter that is not scheduled for its own public hearing. Not scheduled for its own public hearing during today's meeting. There's no discussion
Mayor,
on.
I hate to interrupt you, but this one is scheduled
Yeah,
for a public hearing.
so
why don't
I
we
was
move
just
on
thinking that
and
it's
hear it during the public hearing.
We'll hear this comment in the public hearing. So, all right. There's no items on the consent agenda. Reports and presentations. Our first presentation. Will the city clerk please sound the hearing item?
Approval of an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Milton, Georgia, to fix the ad valorem tax rate of the city of Milton for fiscal year 2012 and for other purposes. This is agenda item number 12205. This is being presented by Ms. Stacy Inglis.
This is the second public hearing that we are having. This is required by the state of Georgia, Official Code of Georgia 48-5-32. The first public hearing was held this morning at 9 o'clock. The third public hearing will be held on September 5th at 6 o'clock during the regularly scheduled council meeting, where we will also be adopting the millage rate. And the millage rate is 4.731 mils. Tax bills will be mailed out on September 6th with a November 5th due date. The total tax digest is $2,118,811,920. The total taxes levied will be $9,261,067. Of that, a little over $8.7 million is for property taxes, and a little over $500,000 is for motor vehicle taxes. There is a 1.1% increase of the property taxes due solely to reassessments of the values of the properties. The millage rate remains at 4.731 mils, as it has been since the inception of the city. And that is it. You want to take any questions?
I have a question. Have we had any, I know, in the information that's gone out publicly, about any increases that the city hasn't raised anything, it's just from assessments. Have we had any feedback yet? I know Jason sent some things out, but any feedback from any citizens or anything?
I have not personally had any
Okay.
feedback.
Chris, have you noticed anything? I don't think I have either. So that's something we just need to be on the lookout and make sure we can educate people that, you know, the city hasn't raised the tax rate. It's just their assessment. So, questions for Stacy?
The tax rate is really just a percentage of the overall property value of the taxes. Is that how we understand that?
Correct. It's just,
Right. So if the value of those properties go up, the percentage stays the same, but the
Correct.
amount that people are paying is essentially going to be going up with it. On the converse side, if those property values go down,
Pay less.
then people would pay in less as well. So this is basically a formality of stating exactly what the city's anticipated budget revenue is going to be so that we can do all the services that we plan on doing. Is that basically
correct.
how this is all designed?
Correct.
For the new guy in the council.
To some degree. What I also want to point out, though, is that the action that you would take by adopting the mill rate is a product of how our fiscal year is set up, is this is actually adopting a mill rate to attach to the fiscal year that is coming to a close.
Okay.
Okay, so this is not in forecast of the fiscal 13 budget. So I don't want you to have one of those and it be the same story.
Sure.
So this is actually, because of the way the timing happens, this is to fix a mill rate levy against a digest that is in a budget year that is coming to a close.
Okay. Gotcha.
Seems a little bit
It's backwards.
backwards, and to some degree it is. But we have to live within the rules we have, and that's
Right.
just when the things happen. So,
Okay. Any other questions for Stacy? If not, open up for public comment.
Our one and only comment comes from Mr. Mark Hanley.
Good evening. I've just been sitting back listening to the comments.
Can you
that
state
were-
your address, sir?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Hanley.
I'm
Do you mind
sorry.
Stating your name and address.
I'm not sure I know the
Just for the
protocol
record.
for this. 'cause
No,
not
it's my
something I
fault.
do normally,
You
yeah.
just, before you start.
My name's Mark Hanley, and I live at 14415 18th Fairway over at Crooked Creek subdivision. I'm here to comment today on the tax increase. I just heard a few comments here earlier that we're really not increasing taxes. We are increasing taxes. Your actions by voting for a flat millage rate, and in fact, is increasing taxes. And that's exactly why the state calls it a tax increase and why there has to be 3 public hearings. We are in fact raising taxes. And in my view, we're doing it in a cowardly manner. We're allowing bureaucrats down on Pryor Street to do it. When we separated from Fulton County, we did so with the understanding in the charter that tax increases were supposed to be voted on by a referendum of voters. Okay. Sure, there was a little loophole there that said, except for bureaucrats on Pryor Street. And that's in fact what's happening. I came here 2 years ago when we had an opportunity to do this, and nobody acted on it. We had a wonderful opportunity to do this because tax valuations went down. It wouldn't have hurt any kind of revenue for the city. I even offered at that time that it should be prospective, which I am now as well. You know, this bill I just got from Fulton County, right there it says CPI frozen. Does anybody know what that is? That means that if Fulton County raises my assessment, then my homestead exemption goes up by a similar amount, such that my net taxable property is neutral. Now, we used to be on this bill. When we were an unincorporated Fulton County, we were on this bill, and we were subject to that provision. When we separated as a city, we lost that. And in fact, most citizens don't know this, but if they look at their bills in the first couple years of incorporation, our bills went up almost 20%. Now, you can say that they went down a little bit in a couple years, but what we're going back to where they were when they went up 20%. This is not what we voted for. This is not what we intended. This is not what the spirit of the charter was, that we would allow our taxes to go up by assessments. This is one of the reasons we got out. Everybody here, and you see it all the time, they talk with some animosity toward Fulton County. But I can tell you right now that even Fulton County doesn't do what you're trying to do. Now, what I think we should do is go back to the CPI frozen, vote that in. Our feeds come from Fulton County. They should have all the data. And our tax increases should be done, if we decide to do them, if you have to state the case to the citizens and put it to a vote. And if we need more revenue, we need to change the millage rate, not the assessments. This is not the way that we wanted this government to be run. We believe in small government up here. We don't believe in a way to backdoor tax increases so that we have this unending growth. Now, you have the opportunity to do that, you know, and you can send a big message to the electorate by doing that. But if you don't do it, you're also sending a big message. And so I call on you to put that CPI frozen language in the Milton bills, and I think that's the way we should run it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no other public comment?
No, sir.
So we'll close the hearing. Is there any comments or questions for staff or comments from council?
Yeah, I would like to get staff's take on this, because he said that the bills for the city of Milton went up on individual property tax returns. I don't believe that was the case, because the millage rate was exactly the same, and the CPI, I mean, we don't assess, Fulton County does the assessment. We don't do any of our own assessment, correct? And we use the same assessment Fulton County does?
Correct. We have to, by law, use the assessments that Fulton County gives us. We cannot do our own assessments.
Okay, so how could it have gone up for be frozen for Fulton County and not for the city of Milton then? Because it's assessed value that is what's actually frozen, correct?
Right, and what he's explaining is that if there were an increase in the assessments on his property, I believe, if I remember right, it's been so long since I thought about CPI frozen, was that, as he mentioned, his homestead exemption would increase by that amount to offset the reassessment. And so therefore, his taxes, in essence, wouldn't go up unless there was a millage rate increase.
Right.
So that's
I think
what
that was
he's
a 3-year
speaking
period or
of.
something when they freeze it.
I
is that-
believe so.
Okay. But that would have been the same for the city of Milton and for Fulton County.
City
we
of
were
Milton
not-
did
City of
not
Milton.
recognize the CPI frozen exemptions.
Well, the 3-year one we had to recognize by state, so this is something different then. Because the 3-year one was a state law, so we did not have a choice in that matter.
Right, right.
I don't know if I
Okay.
follow.
I think there was a different, there was two, and forgive me, I haven't, like I said, I haven't spoken or thought about CPI frozen in a while since we first billed, when Mr. Henley brought it up to begin with, but it was an exemption that Fulton County gave, I think, that they would freeze the assessments on certain bills. I had to go back and look at it. But then there was also an assessment freezing that the state of Georgia put on there for 3 years. So I think they are two separate issues.
So the state of Georgia one, we had to recognize, I mean, we recognized it, because, I mean, that was a statewide thing, the 3-year one.
But I think the whole point is based on this conversation, I'm trying to separate Mr. Henley because, you know, legally we're not supposed to discuss back and forth with you, but as we discuss here, I think the point I see is that obviously if someone's property is assessed at a higher value, then it is an increase for them in their taxes.
Correct.
And what we're seeing is that possibly with Fulton County, at least for a certain period, had frozen that, or at least to where if it was assessed up, that they made a difference in their homestead exemption to balance it out, or we don't recognize the homestead exemption part to balance that out, correct? Or
Right. It was merely a Fulton County homestead exemption.
Because we do have homestead exemptions, but they're different
Yeah,
from the Fulton
right.
County homestead. Because I know ours are more generous for once you get above a certain age and a certain income, below a certain income level, our homestead
Well,
exemption is actually much more generous than Fulton County's.
Correct.
Yeah, but overall, there are some citizens that are paying less in taxes this year than they were, and some paying a little more just based on the assessments of their homes, so.
So what is the net increase then? Is it 1.2%?
1.14%.
And do we have any idea how much of that 1.14 is from new properties and how much of it's from existing properties?
It's only from only from existing properties. New properties are not included as
Okay.
a property tax increase,
Okay.
so it's only from existing properties.
Okay.
So we're, and based on the property tax, which is what, 8-something million?
8.7 million.
8.7. So 1.1% of that is,
About 175,000, somewhere around there. 100 and,
actually it would be what, 80?
to increase is from previous year. It would, the increase, I think I looked at, it'd be like, I think it was like $175,000, $180,000 from the previous year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right. I'm horrible with the percentages.
I just did a quick look, and back in 2008, when we had this discussion before, and obviously, I'd want to, 2008 to 2012, I need to spend a little bit of time to get myself back up to
Sure.
speed to the level I had in 2008. When we had this discussion in 2008, it equated to about $200,000 is what implementing something along the lines of a CPI frozen would do for us. Now, the question, and the question that was asked back then that I don't have the answer to because I just simply don't remember and have to go look, is whether or not the county even was able to provide us with data that we would need to be able to cause that to occur at Milton. You know, the Councilmember Thurman, in fact, had asked us to look at, to find out if Fulton could even, let's just say we wanted to do it. Let's say you all directed me tonight to say, you know, Chris, let's look and try to do a comparable thing to what Fulton does by way of the CPI frozen. We'd have to figure out if that was even information, number one, we could get. Number two, if we could apply it equitably. Back in 2008, I think I had all these answers, or at least I knew them better than I'm knowing them tonight. But you know, we've done a lot of this, a lot of looking into this before, and certainly I want to go so far as to provide you good information tonight, but I also don't want to go so far that I provide you bad information tonight. So let's, if you're willing to let us look into it, we'll bring you something, absolutely, and I certainly appreciate the comments.
Yeah, I would say, you know, it's certainly on one hand, it's a simple issue, but it can be complex too. How to, you know, work with it on Fulton County's numbers and to get it right. So if it's okay with the council, I wouldn't mind if we do allow our staff to spend a little bit of time and address it with us and pros and cons. And that doesn't mean we're going to make a decision one way or the other. I'm not trying to imply that at all, but at least get us more information that we can make a decision.
I'd like to think once it's in there forever, but you know, over a couple of years, it's just not. I'm not quite as sharp as I once was.
Sure, you're getting old. So
I'm telling you.
Bill?
Do you have any sense of the percentage of devaluations as compared to increased valuations?
All I know is that they average out to 1.14%
Right,
increase.
right.
I don't know what the percentage of increase versus decrease was.
Is that something we could determine when you do a little research or not?
I can probably get the information. I have to do a little spreadsheet magic, but I think I can get that information.
Would it be as simple as taking the 1.1% and increase and taking that off across the board?
I can compare last year's values to this year's values and separate out what was increased and what was decreased. And I think I can do that.
I don't know that would be fair for this, you know, for citizens across the board. It would only be fair if everybody was kind of taxed at the same rate, I think.
Yeah.
That's a good
No,
point.
no matter what we do there, we'd want to make sure that it was something that we could apply fairly.
Okay. All right. Now, you know, again, just want to, for those in the audience, welcome to shoot us an email or shoot me an email, and we can keep in contact, and we'll get some information from our staff. And like I said, then we'll have an educated decision and do that. So we do appreciate the comments.
I do have one question as well. I mean, obviously, we're reviewing our charter in that process right now as well, and I don't remember exactly, was taxation discussed in that too? Or?
In and Chris can answer
Is your
that.
question of whether or not the Charter Commission is making a recommendation
Yeah.
with respect to the,
Any changes in the current taxation structure?
The-
I
the-
just didn't know, I was just curious.
the only change that they're recommending at this point is the way the charter is written today. I believe it was written, or they believe it was written, not necessarily in the spirit of what it was intended. Because if you read it literally today, it says that the mill rate can be modified with a majority of the registered voters
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
in a referendum
That's what it says.
voting for it, which is truly a double majority. That is 50% plus one of those that are registered. Now,
Not necessarily.
that just
I don't think we've ever had
might as well be
that
a
percentage
prohibition.
vote.
So
Yeah.
the
A lot of them
Charter
are
Commission
dead
made a
moved.
Yeah, a lot of them
recommendation
are
simply
dead
to
moved.
change it to a majority of those in a
Vote.
referendum, meaning that 50% plus one of those that show up at the polls.
Right.
Which at least gives the flexibility for it to happen, whereas that double majority,
Never
for all intents and purposes, was just not a practical
Right.
way to even allow it to even let the voters allow it to occur.
And that was the only place where that issue of taxation was discussed. It wasn't.
It's addressed in two places in the charter, and the same recommendation was made at both places.
Yeah.
When you're doing your research on that, I would also like us to look at what the cost of providing services, how it has increased over the last 5 years, because I think that's important, because if our total gross amount we receive doesn't change, and our cost of providing services increases just because of, even the small amount of inflation and salaries and stuff we've had, then I think that's an important thing for us to know too. So if you could get us information on how much the cost of, even police and fire, which I know are two of our largest things, have cost, then I think that would be important to help us understand.
Yeah, there are certain, like fuel and things like that,
Right.
that we don't have much control over, unfortunately.
Those are the answers to get out of budget trends.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
Good points.
Yes, yeah, thank you for your comments, too. Okay, we'll move on. We don't have any zoning items or unfinished business or new business. I would like to briefly discuss the Milton Groves Green proposal on the hazardous hazmat recycling and disposal day that they have given us a proposal. And I'm not sure if everybody's seen that or not, or heard of that. And certainly we can get copies to everybody. Maybe I'll get Chris to email or staff to email. But basically,
It's
Milton.
in your budget document.
Okay.
Your budget document, it's in there as an initiative request that I just
Okay.
didn't fund at this point.
Oh.
Yeah, it's $12,000, but if you guys would look at it and consider it, I met with Jacqueline today on that, so told him I'd at least share it with everybody and see if they'd consider it, so.
It's in the binder.
It is in the binder.
Okay, does anybody else have anything else, or staff?
Friends of the library meeting, Milton, first kickoff meeting tonight, 7 o'clock at the Alpharetta Library. I forget who wants to attend.
Okay.
And then I've sent you a
Cool.
couple emails today. If you just give those a gander when you get a spare minute, that'd be great.
Okay, conclude our meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second that we adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.